R.I. Presents.
Sea people, mountain people, erosion. Continued last time. Ryoji was working as usual after the disaster, but he was heartbroken by the TV broadcasts he watched when he got home. He turned a blind eye to the harrowing image. However, he wanted information, and he was consciously watching TV. But the explosion at the nuclear power plant in Fukushima could not be taken as a reality, and he felt like he was watching a scene from a movie somewhere. Even at his part-time job, the topic was nuclear power plants and tsunamis, and even while conversing with them, he could not sort out his feelings. And in his heart, he participated in the conversation with a feeling of taking a step back. Then one day, he suddenly realized that he had recently stopped dreaming of a strange dream he had been having before. And he thought that this was because his concerns had shifted elsewhere and he was no longer conscious of it. And since then he has forgotten about his dreams and has been able to sleep well. After that, the concern for the earthquake and the nuclear power plant faded sometime by the repetition of a previous ordinary daily life, too. As the store went into recession and the waiting time at the store increased, his number of days to work began to decrease. In such a free time, everyone thinks about various things. Like many people, he began to think about various things, and he began to think about tsunamis. Then he became interested in what he had seen during the disaster. The shop was in a recession, and he had time for him, so he decided to take a few days off from work and look around the disaster scenes. He then asked the manager if he could take a vacation that evening, and the manager agreed to the vacation. The next week, he thought easily that he only had to look around the disaster site, and without preparing anything, he left by car in the early morning. His first destination was Koju Beach, where he had previously witnessed the damage caused by the tsunami. It arrived there in less than an hour. However, it was peaceful here as if the tsunami had not come, so he stopped the car and was stunned for a while. He was surprised that people can demonstrate great power in recovery from disasters. Then, the stay in Koju Beach was made a little, and it began to go around the coast by driving the car to check the condition ahead from here. However, there was no trace of the tsunami everywhere he looked. And even if he drove for a while, he could not find any trace and arrived at Tomakomai port. There was no damage here, so he stopped the car and looked around. There was a man who seemed to be working at the port, so he asked the man about the day. "Oh, the tsunami has come. The tsunami over the quay, but there was no problem just because the tools were washed away a little. Hakodate seems to have been worse than here." The man that Ryoji called out answered with a voice of the white breath where the cold remained. "Yes, thank you." When Ryoji answered so, he returned to the car puzzled by his man's unexpected reply, and looked at the harbor dimly. "It's not that far away, but what's the difference from other places?" He thought of a simple question and set fire to the cigarette. "Hakodate," he muttered, holding a cigarette for a while, vaguely thinking. When he looked at the sea for a while, he suddenly came up with the idea of going to Kushiro, which he had casually interested in before. The time is still before noon, so he should be able to go to Kushiro before it gets dark. So he immediately thought of the route. There are two routes. Hokkaido is divided into east and south by the Hidaka Mountains. In order to head towards Duto, there is a route from the Duo Expressway via the Duto Expressway and a route by the sea that takes you through Cape Eremo. Neither route is complicated, but the route that is likely to be reached without hesitation is via the Duo Expressway. However, if you use high speed, it will cost money. For Ryoji, who lives in part-time job, the high-speed fee hurts. The choice was one choice. He convinced himself that the scenery along the sea was nice and that he could drive without getting bored, and drove towards Kushiro. Relying on the road signs, he headed towards Cape Eremo, where he saw the Pacific Ocean on the right and an idyllic landscape of fields and ranches on the left. When he drove down the road and came to the heights, he could see the Pacific Ocean widely. Its horizon is an eye-opening grandeur. It was different from the spectacle which I always saw, but he realized that he liked the sea after all. After running for a while, a sign indicating the direction to Cape Eremo appeared. And when the parking lot was seen on the right side, he went inside without hesitation and parked the car. Let's take a look a little bit. As he headed to the Cape, he made an excuse for himself because he had come this far. He turned to the right before going to the tip, and when he looked at the cliff from there, it was a very nice sight, resembling the local sea. And the sight he saw from the tip was even more majestic than the one he had just seen in the car, and he was mesmerized. On the surface of the sea, traces of ships crossing the lines, white clouds, the blue of the sky and the sea blend together, all perfectly arranged scenery. He had the urge to go to the tip of the cape and see the key up close, but he has to get to Kushiro before it gets dark, so he doesn't have much time. He wanted to see the scenery a little more after enjoying the scenery for a few minutes. But he reluctantly returned to the car, left the parking lot, saw the sign indicating the Kushiro area, and turned the steering wheel toward Kushiro. Notice. I want you to know. The second tourist information. Cape Eremo in Hokkaido is a famous place in Japan, and the name recognition has risen due to the song of singer Shinichi Mori. This place is sacred to the Ainu people and has been designated as a national designated cultural property. The place is a little far, but the scenery is worth seeing. There are also plenty of seafood at the souvenir shop. For details, search the Wind Town, Eremo, tourist navigation. Please refer to it. Today's story ends. The video will be updated next Saturday. Please subscribe to my channel.
See you again.